better? Mr. Maudlin, okay in the back? Very good. Well, thank you everyone so much for being here tonight. I'm a little flustered right now. You can see that we're having a little bit of a learning curve with our new system here. I think a bad lightning crash about an hour and a half ago may have done some damage. So that's why we don't throw anything away here at the WMI, including the old projector that we haven't had to need for about 10 years. So, but we're using it tonight. Everybody see the screen okay? All right, very good. We're also going to be testing out some new microphones. The ladies here have new headsets, so hopefully we'll have no issues with them. But tonight we're talking about archives as we continue our commemoration of the Owen-Maclure 200. This is how we know about our community and about those interesting years of 1825 to 1827 by going to archives and libraries and museums. Now, the WMI has a collection pertaining to the Owens community of equality. So does Rice Library, USI. So does Historic New Harmony. So we're going to learn about what all we have in our collections. Now, we don't proclaim to be experts, historical experts of everything that's in those collections. We haven't done the research on all of these sources, but we want to let you know what sources we have so that other scholars, other people who are interested, can glean the information, find new insights, and a new understanding of Owen's community and McClure's community. Tonight we have Heidi Taylor-Caudill, the Collections and Community Engagement Manager for Historic New Harmony, and Jennifer Green, Archivist and Associate Professor at USI. So tonight I think Heidi wanted to go first, so we're going to turn it over to you.
Grab my notes here. Okay, talking about being flustered, about an hour and a half ago, we had a lightning strike near my house, which is next to the 1830 Owen house, and the fire department came out, had to rush out, make sure there was no fire going on in this historic structure, and that was definitely something I didn't want to happen in the hour before coming here, and luckily nothing was wrong. It just kind of set off some alarms and caused a few issues that way. So just in talking about Historic New Harmony's archives, I wanted to kind of share the story of Robert Owen's community of equality through 6 objects that we have. When I was looking at the objects, I wanted to show that Historic New Harmony's archives has both artifacts from that time period, 1825 to 1827, but one of our other strengths is that we have quite a few materials that talk about the stories that people were telling in the 200 years after that period. And how has that story evolved? How have people addressed the idea of failure, of successes? So that's one of the strengths of our archive. When many people think about New Harmony, they think about big ideas: cooperation, education reform, equality, social change, public schools. But as archivists and historians, we tend to encounter those kind of ideas through objects, through things that we actually have in our collection, through documents, and through things that have survived long after people who made them are gone. So we're going to look at these 6 objects. The first section is focused on the vision. What was Robert Owen and the other individuals who were here, who built the community, how did they see this experiment? How did the outside public see it? And what would daily life have been like? So before we kind of look at these objects, I just wanted to start with a question. that I've been throwing around this whole year that we've been celebrating the Owen-Maclure 200. How do we actually know what a short-lived utopian community was like? And as Ryan said, we know this through archives, through museum collections, through things that have been preserved over time. So, the community of equality really only lasted a little over 2 years, but the archives preserve that story and that evidence of that experiment, preserving objects and papers, photographs, memories. And individually, these things tell a smaller story, but they can come together to tell a larger one when you look at them all together. And, if most people may know what archives are, just kind of running through this, these are collections of original records that might be irreplaceable. They show us not only what happened, but how people actually experienced events and how they remembered them later. Historic New Harmony collects materials that help us understand the people and the events and emotions, things that happened here in New Harmony. Researchers use our collection for genealogical research, for academic papers, exhibits, loans, that sort of thing. We have people from all over the world who have actually come in the last few years to look in our archives and use them. So we're going to start with exploring the community of equality through objects and different perspectives. So the first set is one that I really like. We have a set of silhouettes that were done during the period of the community of equality. We have William McClure, Lucy Say, Madame Fredigeau, Charles Alexander Lesueur. Down here is Robert Owen with the walking cane, and then Thomas Say up here in the corner. Coming from an art history background, I'm really fascinated by these because they're representations from that period of what these people actually looked like. And you can see how they wanted to be portrayed in some of these. Especially Robert Owen down here with the walking cane. He's got his hand extended, he's got his top hat on. It might have been just a regular sight you would see around here, but how is he wanting to project himself? And the same goes, for everybody else. Madame Fredigeau, she's got a book in her hand. Lesueur has papers that he's reading. And so one of the, things that this shows is not only who some of the leaders were of the community, these people who had their likenesses done, but, how that they wanted to belong. Were they part of like an inner circle? You could ask these kind of questions viewing these. The question that we want to carry forward to the next slide is, how did outsiders tend to view this utopian experiment? We have a collection of newspapers from 1825 to around 1826 that are talking about Robert Owen's experiment here in New Harmony. And it's really interesting when you compare the newspapers as time goes on. It goes from really positive writings about what he's doing here. There's even a copy of a letter from Thomas Jefferson that was reprinted in one, kind of giving his approval of it. By the time you reach the end of 1826, you can see here, like this one, the Owen's Declaration of Mental Independence has already been declared. People on the outside are shocked and scandalized by it. And so this is actually, a writing about that. And the really cool thing about this is almost, like real-time commentary that you're getting. It's not something that was written years later. So this is a really great source. And as the collection manager, I definitely look for more newspapers and things like this to add to the collection just because of the information it can give us. The third thing from the community is this beaded child's bracelet. This is one of the prettiest objects, I think, in our collection. It was done by a child, Sarah Cox Thrall, who was living here with her family during the experiment and enrolled in the community schools. And years later, when she was an elderly lady, George Lockwood interviewed her for the New Harmony book that was written in the early 20th century. And she was able to give him some stories from her time in the schools about how much she hated the gruel that they had to eat. She just wanted to stuff herself on sugar and, the things that they had to do as students, being away from their families, that sort of thing. And this is one of those things. You have this bracelet in the collection, and it's something that we can partner with a later recorded story like that, and you almost see the hand of the child in this. It brings the human closer when you see things like this. So the second part with the last three objects is about memory, how people actually remembered what they considered a failure. One of the interesting books that we have in the collection is by Rosamond Dale Owen. It's a bound copy of one of her plays, Robert Owen, Cooperation versus Communism. And she wrote that. She was the granddaughter of Robert Owen. When you read through the play, it's definitely calling New Harmony a failure. And it's really a way that you can see how the family is viewing their history here, trying to wrestle with that notion of failure. So in researching the community of equality, another thing that you can get from archives are like subject files. These are things that have been collected over the years that are research material that people who have done research have produced or that has been collected over time. So the one that you see in the middle is the subject file for Charles Alexander Lesueur, and it's just kind of like a mishmash of different sources. Some are located here in the WMI, so cross-referencing that. Others are things that you probably can't find here in the United States. You can see over here on the right side, part of our storage, we've got some files on individuals, on buildings, past research that's been done. So these are all things that if you were delving into that part of the history, you could reference these as potential sources that could lead you to other things. And the last object that I would talk about is the smallest thing in our collection. It's one of my favorites, Robert Owen's hair. And this is definitely not the life-size version of it. It's really only about this big. It's on a microscope slide. And I have been doing research this year trying to trace back where did this single strand of hair come from? And I think I've kind of got a lineage back to Robert Owen's deathbed going now. But it's on a microscope slide. What's not pictured here is a piece of painter's tape that has in ink, here's how it came from Robert Owen to Don Pitzer, who eventually gave it to Josephine Elliott. So it's just been sitting in a box in our archives for many years, and I'm always happy to get it out and show it to people. But this is the kind of thing that even 200 years later, you can look at it and say, well, that's strange or that's fascinating, but it actually is a piece of a person, and it kind of connects us to that. And as far as I know, this is one of the few pieces of Robert Owen in the United States. So, archives do sometimes collect weird stuff. So just really quickly, why do archives matter? It's being able to see evidence that this community actually existed. Who were the people, who were the average people who weren't the leaders? What was everyday life like? These are all things that are waiting in the archives. This particular map up here is actually a hand-drawn map of the division between Robert Owen and William-Maclure's sections of New Harmony. So somebody drew out a map, drew it out in a red line so you could see who had what half of the town. In the middle context outside of New Harmony, of course, the newspapers revealing reactions of the public to Owen's experiment. And these later contributed to that memory of what the experiment was. Was it a failure? Was it a success? These are all questions that we're still debating today, but you can see even back then people were doing that as well. And these are just some of the many books that we have in the collection. We try to collect what we can that have been written about Robert Owen, the harmonist, Lesueur, the scientist. We've got some in Japanese, some in Polish, different languages like that. It's important to preserve these books, especially in the age of AI. We've been seeing these companies that have been destroying these rare books, to be able to scan and use for AI purposes. And, this is going to become even more important in the years to come, probably, to have these repositories for these rare books. So hopefully I did not go over my time. I tried to fly through this. But if you ever want to see some of the things in our collection, we currently don't have a research room that scholars could use. I usually have to bring things from storage over to our office, but I'm always happy to do that. I'm happy to answer any questions and see if I can do some research for you. So there's my email, my phone number, and then at the bottom, we do have an online collections website that we developed a couple of years ago, and we're slowly adding to it, but there's lots of photographs on there, and I'm trying to add to it every week with more and more stuff. So that's another good resource to see what we have and kind of delve into New Harmony's history. So thank you.
All right, how's that? When we talk about primary sources, everybody know what we're talking about? Heidi kind of touched on that. Anybody not know? Well, in case you're afraid to raise your hand, primary source in historiography here is source material that was written, that was compiled by those who were there. It's not a book after the fact, a book written 50 years or 100 years later. It's the newspapers, it's the letters, it's the diaries, it's the journals, the things that really give us their words, their thoughts, their actions. Now, sometimes in research you have to be careful because not even primary sources are not always the most accurate. Not everybody told the truths on themselves or their neighbors or things like that. So in studying, it's best to have as many primary sources as you can. So you can get Owen's opinion, then you can get McClure's opinion, then you can get Fredigeau's opinion, and by using the historic method, kind of try to figure out what happened here at New Harmony in 1825 to 1827. It's like putting puzzle pieces together. But the WMI, just like the other two organizations here, we have a lot of those puzzle pieces. And many historians have tried to put them together. And since we will never know exactly what happened here during those years, we hope historians and scholars and just even amateur historians come in and try to gain these new insights from our materials. The best highlights of our collection that we have pertaining to the community of equality, legal papers, which include the deed of sale between Father Rapp and Robert Owen. That is kind of the baby document, the infant document of the town. You know, that's how that starts the utopian experiment under Owen. We also have a series of bound ledgers from the New Harmony community, those business records, financial records. They've all been digitized and they're on Indiana memory. We had a grant a few years ago, but I'll get to that in a moment. And then we have miscellaneous community correspondence, some letters that were written to and from New Harmony during those years. And of course, we're going to talk about the McClure-Fredigeau correspondence. That is probably the best single primary source material about Owen's community. And then, of course, we have a complete section, complete set of the New Harmony Gazette. And not Dan Barton's paper either, the original one. The deed of December 10th, 1825. Now, as many of you know, Owen had actually agreed to purchase the town well before that. And in fact, we have some of those preliminary agreements. But this is the one that was filed with the state. For $150,000, he bought New Harmony, not just the village, but the entire surrounding 30,000 acres. Bought that. He agreed to buy that on January 3rd, 1825. Of course, in May, Owen takes possession of the town. October 1st, the New Harmony Gazette begins publication, but it wasn't until December 10th where the paperwork was finally complete. And we have that here at the WMI. In a separate document, we have Robert Owen's acceptance of this deed. How we got this is kind of interesting. It was the property of Grace Zering Stone. And it was given to the WMI in 1924. Snedeker deposited here at the WMI. So it's an 11-page document, outlines all the particulars of how we go from Harmony of the Harmonites to Robert Owen's New Harmony. Series 3, the financial records, store account books. Find out how much people were paying for nails and flour and things like that. You also find out all about goods and transactions. The Volume 6 ledger is probably the most important financial record. It runs from the start of the community in March of 1826 through the final settlement between Robert Owen and William McClure in May of 1827. It includes all major accounts, including Robert Owen's, William McClure's, the general store, the accounts of the Education Society, and they all terminate in April and May of 27. Of course, what was going on there, the community was collapsing as far as Owen's vision. Also, volume 12 of this collection is also particularly valuable. We go from the financial records to how Owen's experiment was supposed to work politically and socially. We have the minutes of the preliminary society from November 2nd, 1825 to February 28th, 1826, followed by the minutes of the convention held to formulate the Constitution. Now, this is a time, a lot of hot debate about where the community was going to go. Ms. Colley, how many times did they have to rewrite that Constitution? A couple, because they couldn't agree. We have a record of all that discord right here at the WMI. Other things that this includes is a volume that's dedicated to valuation of labor on February 8th, 1826. So that's available for a researcher to learn about what their positions are on labor and how they valued that, the various roles. Series 1, New Harmony Correspondence. Miscellaneous letters written to and from folks in New Harmony. This collection is 4 folders, and it contains letters to William McClure, Akil Fredigeau, and Marie Fredigeau. Some of these letters are written in French, and to my knowledge, they've never been transcribed. So that would be a great project for any French-speaking researchers. One of the letters that I want to read to you, did the mic cut out? You can hear me still? Okay. It was written in New York, August 19th, 1826, to a mother writing to her two daughters who were in school here in New Harmony. My dear Francis and Sarah, I received a letter from Lucy yesterday, and I was very happy to hear your health is so good and that the school is preparing and will soon be well organized. I hope the box I sent by W. Owen, containing a number of little articles, pamphlets, and papers for you to read, has come. You will, before you receive this, see Mr. Douglas, who left Philadelphia last Monday for Nashville. He said he would go to New Harmony, if possible, to see you, and when he returns next spring, he will come by way of Harmony and bring you home, unless you should wish to remain longer to receive education. Mrs. Sister wrote that to her daughters. The Lucy being referenced is Lucy Sister Say. Another letter in this collection, marked confidential, is from William Taylor to Joseph Fauntleroy. This is October 27th, 1827. Things are starting to go south. I need not say to you, my dear sir, that caution is necessary in all things which relate to Robert Owen. We have everything to fear in his power to accomplish if the signs are true, but little to dread with prudent management. And there's a whole letter after that opening statement. Somebody needs to research that. And of course, the McClure-Fredigeau correspondence. It goes from 1820 up to the 1830s. But of course, the significant part of that is 25 to 27. There's a remarkable letter from March 27th and 28th, 1825, where Robert Owen and Marie Fredigeau are trying to really recruit William McClure into coming to New Harmony. We have that letter. There are 409 letters, 408 letters in the collection. There are very few holes, very few missing letters in that collection. It's probably one of the more complete records of the utopian times. There are 19 letters from June 9th through September 25th, 1826. It's the day-to-day life of what's going on. I'm trying to make it work. The letters that cover November 26th to March 27th, a lot of discord in those letters. Maybe Robert Owen doesn't have all the answers now. They're talking about that. We have the original letters, but they were all annotated and transcribed for Partnership for Posterity. Anyone familiar with that book? And that tome, that's back in my office. I was looking at it in preparation. All 408 letters, Josephine Elliott's work. She had that published in 1994. But it's not just about the New Harmony community at that time. You really learn a lot about the relationship between Fredigeau and McClure. There's a lot of speculation of what was going on there and their friendships and their partnership. Letters are just a treasure trove, and they've been transcribed, they've been annotated, but it's always interesting to go back and look at it again for new perspectives. And of course, the New Harmony Gazette. Weekly historical paper published from October 1st, 1825 to October 22nd, 1828. It was edited by figures like Francis Wright and Robert Dale Owen. It shared the socialist and reformist ideas of the day. So it's not just a newspaper. It's a great record of all of their ideas, all of their opinions. In that first edition, Frances Wright has a lengthy article about slavery and how slavery could be abolished without any harm done to the South. Nobody took her up on it. But it's a wonderful article. There are also letters written to the editor from, and I'd love to go back there and read some more of these letters, from farmers in the area who are writing the New Harmony Gazette because they're not very happy that New Harmony is here, or that, at least that Robert Owen is here. So that's something I think could be explored and researched a little more. It's been touched on in the past, but I don't think anyone has ever done a full study on what did the outsiders of New Harmony really feel about the experiment here. So those are kind of our highlights of our collection here at the Working Men's Institute. Of course, I like to say we have the history of the entire town here at the WMI, but people are always interested, bless you, people are always interested in the Harmony Society and, of course, the second community that was here, Robert Owen. And we have a few other things in the collection. We have many Xerox copies of some of the materials in the Robert Owen collection across the way over there at the mansion. We don't have the originals of those, but we have a lot of copies, so those are available for research here as well. Anybody can look at these. Anybody can make an appointment to view these materials. Like I said, some are online. We have some of our correspondence is with the archives at IU, their online archive. And then we have with Indiana Digital Memory, a lot of the ledgers from this period as well. But it's a great resource. We've got great stuff. And I don't think, I'll look to my colleagues here, I don't think there's been a scholarly work in the last 50 years that hasn't had, Don Pitts or Richard Risma, that hasn't had research done here and at Rice Library and at Historic New Harmony. I think for the authors, for the scholars, this is the place to go. It really is. So, if you're not all going to be knocking on the door tomorrow morning, begging to do research for my primary collection, at least I want you to know it's here, and I want you to know the significance of it and the importance of the opinions we have on New Harmony and Robert Owen's experiment here. The opinions we have now, those might not be the general consensus in 50 years, 100 years. But if we have these primary sources and we're able to go back and look at them and reevaluate them and get new analysts, we will always have that treasure and to use it to not understand the past, but understand our present. Thank you. And now Jennifer.
And now for something completely different. All right. Good night, good evening, everybody. Most of you know who I am, Jennifer Green from USI. I'm going to take things in a little bit of a different direction than what we've already seen. When it comes to the community of equality, I don't have a whole lot. Honestly, why should I? We have New Harmony, and we have the Working Men's Institute, who do all the heavy lifting when it comes to the primary source of New Harmony. What we do have is a lot of the secondary sources, a lot of writings, a lot of scholarship that's been done, and books. And of course, we partner with both historic and working men's in a lot of variety of ways. We call on each other to identify materials and do exhibits, participate in community engagement things like Archives Madness and Archives Fest. So those are the main things that we do with the community of equity. We do, though, try to collect on the town of New Harmony. We used to collect a lot of the newsletters and those kinds of tangible things that were produced. Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff's gone digital now, right? So it's a little harder to capture New Harmony, the town, not necessarily its associations. Many of you know we have the Blair photographs, the Blair collection. And although Historic New Harmony owns the slide collection from the 70s, those are all available online. So you can go to the David L. Rice Library website and find the university archives and click right to the digital collections. And you can go and view these wonderful photos that we have. We've been here several times doing town halls, getting people in the community to help us identify these photos. Because a lot of these photos are the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. There are still people who know who those people were. And then the New Harmony slide collection, have done the same thing, and we need to do some more of those because those are the 70s and the 80s. And I'll bet a lot of you in here right now could help me identify people, places, and things. So when it comes to the community of equity, that's kind of what you have at USI. But what I will say is that Robert Owen and the town of New Harmony was an inspiration. It helped create what is now the Communal Studies Association. It gave birth to the Center for Communal Studies at USI. And I've taken that as inspiration. So today, what we collect on is the modern expression of community. That could be back to the land movements. We have a community that were organic bakers. And when I say organic bakers, I mean everything you think today, they were doing in 1948. We have communes, the hippies. Everybody loves the hippies. Eco-villages, co-housing. How is this idea of building your own little utopian community expressing itself today? And so that's kind of where we've jumped from the community of equity and kind of taken it on a journey a little bit down the road to see what people think today. When I talk to a lot of these communities, a lot of them don't even understand the history of communal living. And so it's always interesting to have a conversation with them, and hopefully I spur, interest in learning that they weren't the first. There were others, and it goes back a long way. We too have lots of resources online, lots of photographs. We have some documents, but that's going to be, again, like I said, the later New Harmony. But I have learned so much about New Harmony. I too have changed my opinion on a few things over the years. I had my prejudgments when I came here 20 years ago, and some of those have evolved and changed because of the artifacts, because of the primary sources, and being able to do that little thing called critical thinking, right? Anyway, that's all I have for you tonight. Feel free to reach out to me at USI. Again, if you just go to the library homepage, you can click on the archives and get contact information. Always happy to talk to anybody.
Jennifer, you might explain about the Blair collection and who Don Blair was, because there's probably people here that don't know that.
Really, you want me to open that can of worms? It's been a long time. So Don Blair was an institution here in New Harmony, along with Josephine Elliott, and there's a book just in those two characters alone. But he somehow got the Fauntleroy and the, I'm going to butcher this, Lichtenberger glass plates. And he kept them, and my understanding is, in the little house that used to be under the bridge, because he was the head of keeping the maintenance on the bridge on the Indiana side. And at some point, he wanted to destroy them, is the story I was told, because he was upset with certain people in town. He called Dr. Pitzer, and Dr. Pitzer talked him into donating them to the archives. So they were in our archives for a very, very long time. And one of the first things I did when I came was I got a grant, and we scanned every last one of those glass plates. And they were all online, and they are all gorgeous. People ask me sometimes about, do they belong here? You know what, I think what's important is that everybody can get to them, and they're being saved for the future. And that's what you need to focus on. So, yeah, but that's who Don Blair is. You're probably right. And the New Harmony slide collection, for those of you who may not know, that was when they relocated a lot of the buildings. here in the 70s. That's also when they filmed the first movie that used to play forever at the Athenaeum. So we have the photos of that too. And we're trying to identify, because they didn't keep as good a records about where things came from and where they went to. So the photos are giving us some clues as to how things went down. So, yeah. Okay. You're welcome.
Anybody have any other questions?
Given that collection is about collecting, do you have any recommendations or advice about not becoming a hoarder?
Become an archivist. I hoard at work.
Collect what you like. Collect what you can afford. Years ago, I started a small collection of Civil War primary source material. It hasn't grown much. Those letters are expensive, and I think if we ever went on eBay or went to the historic manuscript dealers and you ever came across an official letter, an authentic letter written from New Harmony in 1826, you'd probably pay a pretty penny for it. But we don't like to talk about the monetary value of these. We prefer to focus on the historical value, of course. But if you want to collect things, historical nature, do your research, know what you're getting. A lot of fakes, a lot of frauds out there. And collect what you like. If you try to collect everything, and there's a few people that have money enough to do so, you'll have a lot. You might end up like a hoarder. So, but of course, my first thing would be, if you have some of these materials, donate them to your local library or museum who would love to have them, and make them accessible to everybody. Any other questions? Sir?
This is for you and Heidi. You mentioned that there's a lot of material available in the archives and the collections. If there were a book or a book title that's been left unwritten based upon the collections or the archives, what would any sense of what that title would be?
That's a good question.
We need some elevator music.
Yeah, I think so. We need some Jeopardy music playing right now. I always want to hear a little more from the women. We talk about McClure, we talk about Owen. Fredijo's words are out there, but there are a few other names out there, I think, that need to have their stories told as well. What do you think, ladies?
Well, I think with our collection, one of my personal interests is how has the town been telling its own story throughout time. And we have a lot of institutional records to do with historic Harmony, what we were doing here in the 70s with moving buildings around and kind of transforming the town into a James Laffer Owen. And I know that there have been some things written about that, but I'd love to see more about that time period and, talking to some of the people who were here at the time, get some oral histories from them, for the record. I've heard some great stories over the years about somebody who was working at the Muse in the bookstore, and she said that she never knew from day to day where a house was going to be located because it might be moved down the street. And that's just a fascinating period of time to me, and I think that should be delved into a little more. We have the records on it. It's just in a bunch of baker's boxes. We've not gone through it yet.
So we didn't give you any titles, but we gave you some themes. Titles are hard to come up with on the fly sometimes. Any other questions?
So I didn't know about the ledgers being online. Sorry, that's amazing, and I can't wait to go check them out on any
Yes.
kind of memory.
Yes.
That is so cool.
Mr. Maudlin?
I'd be interested in knowing what opinions have changed since you started researching.
I don't call it a failure anymore. Okay, there, I said it out loud.
Good for you.
Well, an experiment. I mean, yeah, the show's over by 1827 for the community of equity. But look at what that spurred on with New Harmony. And actually the fact that y'all still exist today. Think about how many small towns around here are gone, or ghost towns. Something kept the people here in New Harmony, even during the hard times, even during the bad times. This library stayed open. There's a success there. Was Owen successful? Maybe not. But he brought ideas here that were new, right? So that's my biggest one. You finally got me to say it out loud. You get an extra cookie.
I will not try to follow up on that excellent response. Any other questions? Mr. Bustler.
The impact of the technology on the town as it went through its development. Because in the 1830s, we came out with some of the first automated tilling and sawing.
People in the back want to hear your question, Dan.
Well, I'm sorry, I just finished up. But the technology in the entire world was changing and moving forward, where we came up with planting, sowing, tilling machines instead of by hand. So that's went through our entire country. Absolutely.
So I remember the WMI had a bunch of farm equipment upstairs. When I first moved here, there were tractors and rail splitters and ungodly huge chains that were covered in a mountain of grease and dirt. So,
We still have them.
so that was an important part of, and when we talk about preserving the working man's knowledge, right, the mission of WMI, so I don't mean to just warn on there, but everything has to grow and change. And the museum had to kind of adapt and grow too, but that's still an important part of the history. Technology today, do we really want to talk about the internet access in New Harmony? I can get it here, I can't get it here. No, it's an important part of the story though. I came here and found my family's home in a book that was chronicling the iron industry in Evansville. The Highland Foundry built the neighborhood my home was in. And I came here and there was actually a picture of my family's home in that roadblock. And that was all the way in Evansville. So, I don't know where it's going back.
Anything else? Well, the Owen-Maclure 200 keeps rolling on. September 5th, the Lights of Liberty drone show. Right at the Athenaeum. Easy. Yes, this is the postponement date. We had planned that earlier in July, I think, but this time we're really going to do it. Because we're going to not only have food trucks there in a drone show, we're going to have entertainment by Third Thursday Bluegrass, the Liberty Bells featuring Cecilia Paradise, Molly Felder, and we're going to have Liz Mumford with the Rodenberg Blue Band. So we want to be there for that. The lecture series continues Saturday, September 26th at 2 p.m. right here at the Working Men's Institute. Dr. Clark Kimmerling is going to be talking about the Sons of Robert Owen. It'll be as exciting as the Sons of Katie Elder, I promise. There's going to be a lecture in 2 parts, an overview of Robert Owen and his family, including the high points in the career of his sons, Robert Dale Owen, William Owen, David Dale, and Richard. And he's also going to talk about recent historical findings in Indiana and in Switzerland, of all places. So that primary source of research can take you all over the world. On Wednesday, October 28th, Peggy Fisher Keller from the Indiana State Museum is going to be giving a lecture on the Troost Mineral Collection, which is right here at the Working Men's Institute. That collection features thousands of mineralogical specimens, rare specimens, all related to the scientific history of New Harmony. So please mark that on your calendar. And then, of course, it's all building up to the Innovative Communities Past, Present, and Future Conference in November 12th through the 15th. That's primarily going to be held at the Inn and the Conference Center, but there'll be some breakout sessions, and I think there'll be one here at the New Harmony, or at the Working Men's Institute as well. So what can we learn from past utopian communities? What efforts are currently underway to innovate communities in ways similar to the different from previous, in ways that are similar and different from previous experiments? I think that's going to be open free to the residents of New Harmony, so please take advantage of that. And then we won't get into the events for 2027 yet, but we're going to keep this thing rolling until next summer. So be looking out for details on that. Thank you so much for coming out here on this rainy night with the technical difficulties. Appreciate you all being here, and stay dry going home. Thank you.